Naomi Carter stood alone inside the old shack, listening to the storm rage around her. She was in her early 30s, but in that moment she felt small, like the little girl she used to be. Thunder rolled across the sky, shaking the weak wooden walls. Rain pushed its way through the broken roof, dripping steadily onto dusty boxes stacked on the floor. Each box held pieces of her childhood: school notebooks, faded photos, clothes she had outgrown but never thrown away. The water soaked into the cardboard, blurring the past just like time had. The shack smelled of damp wood and rust. It had been left to her after everything fell apart, like a final joke. Naomi wrapped her arms around herself, cold seeping into her bones. This place was quiet, forgotten, just like she had often felt in her own family. Her phone vibrated in her hand. The sudden glow lit up the dark room. An Instagram post loaded on the screen. Bianca Carter, her younger sister, smiled brightly in a long dress, a champagne glass raised high. Behind her were tall glass windows and city lights. The caption talked about new beginnings and blessings. It proudly announced Bianca's new $4.5 million Manhattan apartment. People in the comments clapped with words and heart emojis. Everyone seemed so happy for her. Naomi stared at the screen while rainwater dripped onto her shoes. She looked around at the cracked walls and sagging ceiling, then back at Bianca's perfect life. The contrast hurt more than she expected. Bianca had applause, money, and love that came easily. Naomi had silence, decay, and a building that barely stood. A memory came back to her, clear and sharp. She was sitting across from a lawyer weeks earlier, hands folded, trying to stay calm. His voice had been careful, almost rehearsed. "Your mother believed this was the fair division," he had said. Fair. The word had sounded empty even then. Naomi swallowed hard. All her life, she had been the one who adjusted, who waited, who gave up her own plans so others could shine. She was the strong one, the understanding one, the one who didn't complain. Somewhere along the way, that became her role, and no one questioned it, not even her. She asked herself the same questions she had carried for years. Why was she always the one expected to sacrifice? Why did love in her family feel like something you earned only after proving your worth? A loud crack echoed beneath her feet. Naomi stepped back in surprise as part of the floor gave way. One rotten board snapped and sank lower than the rest. Her heart raced. She crouched down and pushed the broken wood aside. Underneath, hidden in the dirt and shadows, was something she had never seen before. An old steel lockbox sat beneath the floor, scratched and worn but solid. Naomi froze, staring at it as the storm continued to roar outside. Grew up being the strong one. That was how everyone described Naomi Carter. And for a long time, she believed it herself. When things went wrong, people looked at her and expected calm. When someone needed help, she was the one who stepped forward. She learned early that being strong meant staying quiet, swallowing pain, and not asking for much in return. As a child, Naomi often put her own wishes aside. If her mother was tired, Naomi helped without being asked. If her sister needed support, Naomi gave it. When money was tight or emotions ran high, Naomi adjusted her dreams instead of fighting for them. She told herself there would be time later. Later never seemed to come. She wanted many things once. She wanted to travel, to study, to build a life that felt like her own. But family always came first. Someone was always sick, stressed, or struggling. Naomi became the dependable one, the fixer, the emotional support. Over time, she stopped sharing her own needs because no one seemed to hear them anyway. Naomi was emotionally aware. She could sense tension in a room without a word being spoken. She knew when people were lying, even gently. She felt other people's pain deeply, sometimes more deeply than her own. But instead of being valued, this sensitivity was often mistaken for weakness. People underestimated her because she was kind, because she didn't raise her voice. Inside she was tired. Not the kind of tired sleep could fix, but the deep exhaustion that comes from years of being overlooked. She worked hard but never seemed to get ahead. Financially she struggled. Bills caused stress. Savings were small or non-existent. Still, she refused to take shortcuts or betray her values. Even when life felt unfair, she held on to her sense of right and wrong. Her mother, Evelyn Carter, played a large role in shaping this life. Evelyn was cold in a quiet, polished way. She cared deeply about appearances, about how the family looked to the outside world. Success mattered to her more than feelings. Control mattered more than comfort. Love was often conditional, given as a reward rather than freely. Evelyn praised ambition, but only when it looked impressive. Bianca, the younger daughter, fit that image perfectly. Bianca was confident, stylish, and always chasing the next big achievement. Evelyn spoke proudly of her in public, sharing her successes as if they were trophies. Every promotion, every expensive purchase, every sign of status was celebrated. Naomi received different words. She was told she was too soft, too emotional, too gentle for the real world. Evelyn warned her that kindness would only lead to disappointment. When Naomi tried to explain her choices or feelings, Evelyn dismissed them as excuses. Over time, Naomi learned that nothing she did would ever be enough in her mother's eyes. Bianca grew up watching this dynamic closely. She learned that affection followed success and attention. Praise came with achievements, not effort. She became skilled at presenting a perfect image, always confident, always sure she deserved more. While Naomi carried the family's emotional weight, Bianca carried its expectations of success. As adults, the gap between the sisters widened. Bianca moved through life assuming things would work out for her. Naomi moved carefully, always prepared for disappointment. Bianca felt entitled to support. Naomi felt guilty asking for help. Their relationship was polite on the surface but strained underneath, shaped by years of comparison and imbalance. There was one person who saw Naomi differently. Her grandfather, Henry Carter, was the only adult who truly noticed her. He was a disciplined and principled man, quiet but powerful in presence. He believed in fairness, not performance. When Naomi spoke, he listened. When she asked questions, he took them seriously. Henry saw her intelligence and her empathy as strengths, not flaws. He encouraged her to think deeply and trust her instincts. With him, Naomi felt safe being herself. She didn't have to prove anything. She simply mattered. But Henry's values clashed with Evelyn's. He questioned her decisions, her control, her way of dividing love between her daughters. Arguments grew frequent and tense. Eventually, Henry became distant from the family. The separation was never fully explained to Naomi, but she felt his absence deeply. Losing him felt like losing the only mirror that showed her true worth. Now standing at this point in her life, Naomi wasn't just grieving money or missed opportunities. She was grieving proof. Proof that she mattered. Proof that her sacrifices were seen. Proof that someone chose her. Not because she was easy to overlook, but because she was worthy. The pain wasn't only about what she lacked. It was about what had been taken quietly, piece by piece, without her consent. And for the first time, Naomi felt something shift inside her. A quiet understanding that her story might not be over yet. Naomi pries open the lockbox with shaking hands. The metal creaks as the lid slowly lifts, releasing a smell of old paper and rust. For a moment, she just stares, her heart pounding so loudly she can barely hear the rain outside. She half expects the box to be empty, or filled with something meaningless. But what she sees makes her breath catch. Inside are neatly stacked documents, carefully protected in plastic sleeves. The papers look official, serious, important. On top of them lies a cashier's check. Naomi pulls it out and reads the number again and again, thinking her eyes must be wrong. $80 million. Her mind freezes. She sits back on the floor, the check trembling in her hands. That amount of money doesn't feel real. It feels like a mistake, or a cruel trick. She has lived her whole adult life counting every expense, choosing between groceries and bills. And now this number sits in front of her, silent and heavy. Beneath the check is a sealed envelope. Naomi recognizes the handwriting immediately. Her chest tightens. It is her grandfather Henry's writing. Strong, careful letters, just as she remembers. Her fingers linger on the envelope before opening it, as if touching it might break something fragile inside her. She takes a slow breath and opens the letter. Henry's words feel calm, even gentle, as she reads. He writes that he is sorry he could not protect her more openly while he was alive. He explains that he discovered changes being made to his estate without his consent. Papers altered. Decisions pushed through quietly. He names the truth without anger, only clarity. Evelyn had been manipulating things behind the scenes. Henry writes that he created a protected trust in secret, one that could not be easily touched or redirected. The money in that trust was always meant for Naomi. Not as a reward, not as pity, but because he trusted her. He believed she would use it with care and integrity. He explains the shack too. He says he left it to her on purpose, not as a punishment, but as a test. He wanted to see if she would remain patient when things felt unfair. If she would hold on to her values when no one was watching. If she could stand on her own, even when abandoned by those who should have supported her. Naomi's eyes fill with tears, blurring the words on the page. For the first time in years, she feels truly seen. Henry understood her in a way no one else ever had. He knew her strength was quiet. He knew her honesty mattered. As she reads on, the meaning of everything begins to change. Memories line up differently now. The rushed meetings, the cold explanations, the lawyer's careful words about fair division. None of it had been accidental. None of it had been simple favoritism. Her mother hadn't just chosen Bianca. She had erased Naomi. Naomi's hands curl into fists. A deep ache settles in her chest, heavier than anger. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't misunderstanding. It was a deliberate act. Her inheritance had been hidden, buried beneath lies and silence. The life she could have had was taken from her without her knowledge. She looks around the shack again. The broken roof, the damp walls, the loneliness, all of it had been part of a lie designed to make her feel small, unworthy, easy to dismiss. But now the truth sits open in front of her. The lockbox is no longer just a box. It is proof that someone believed in her. Proof that her suffering was not invisible. Proof that what she felt all along was real. Naomi wipes her face and takes a long breath. The storm outside begins to soften, rain falling more gently now. Inside her, something shifts. The story she was told about herself is breaking apart. This changes everything. And for the first time, Naomi knows she cannot stay silent anymore. Naomi contacts an estate attorney the next morning, her hands still shaking from the discovery of the lockbox. She explains everything she has found, the $80 million check, the legal documents, and most importantly, the sealed letter from her grandfather. The attorney listens carefully, nodding as she lays out the situation, and then gives a look that makes Naomi's stomach tighten. Naomi, the attorney says slowly, this isn't just about the trust. There are clear signs that filings were delayed. Some signatures were altered. Funds were redirected quietly. This isn't standard procedure. It looks like deliberate manipulation. Naomi feels her heart sink, and then race at the same time. She had suspected her mother favored Bianca, but she never imagined her mother would go so far as to tamper with legal documents to hide her inheritance. It feels like the floor beneath her has cracked, the reality she trusted splitting open. When she finally speaks to Bianca, Naomi braces herself for denial or apology. Instead, Bianca's words hit her like a blow. You're being greedy, Bianca says sharply. You want money that's not yours. Can't you just let it go? People will talk. Naomi feels heat rise in her chest. Greedy? After all she has given, all the sacrifices she made, Bianca dared to call her greedy. It stings deeper than the betrayal, because it comes from someone she once loved. Then her mother joins in, cold and precise. Henry was not of sound mind. Evelyn says as if reading from a script. He made decisions that don't make sense. You shouldn't be taking advantage of a confused old man. Extended family members begin whispering, shaking their heads. Naomi is embarrassing the family, one cousin says under their breath. She's dragging the Carter name into the dirt. Naomi feels a sudden wave of isolation, as though everyone she counted on for understanding has turned away. Even friends are unsure. They call, they text, some saying, maybe it's better to walk away, Naomi. Don't ruin yourself or your relationships over money. Naomi appreciates their concern but feels torn. Was she overreacting? Was she wrong to dig into this? She remembers Henry's words from the letter. You are strong. You are honest. You deserve what is rightfully yours. The memory steadies her. It reminds her that the truth is on her side, and that inaction now would let others define her life. Still, Naomi struggles with guilt. She was raised to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to give in rather than fight. For decades, that mindset protected her, made her the good daughter, the easy one. Now she faces the exact opposite. She must be confrontational, assertive, and fearless. She must claim what is hers. The thought makes her stomach churn. She doesn't like confrontation. It feels foreign and uncomfortable, yet necessary. She sits in her small apartment, going through the documents over and over. The more she reads, the more she sees the depth of manipulation. Signatures that should have been her mother's alone are forged. Forms that should have been filed years ago were delayed until it was almost too late. Money meant for her life quietly fueled Bianca's successes, including the expensive apartment Naomi had stared at on Instagram during that stormy night. Each revelation feels like a punch and a push at the same time. The betrayal is massive, but so is the power she now holds. The lockbox was just the beginning. The documents show her mother didn't just favor Bianca, she actively erased Naomi's future. Naomi feels anger rising, hot and bitter. It's mingled with grief and disbelief. She remembers the nights she sacrificed sleep and dreams to support her family. Every effort, every kindness, every compromise was ignored while her mother built a story that excluded her. And yet, there is a strange sense of clarity. For the first time, she can see the full picture. The injustice is no longer vague or half-hidden. Now she knows exactly what was done and to whom. That knowledge gives her strength, even as it makes her nervous. She knows the battle ahead will not be easy. Bianca will fight, Evelyn will defend herself with cold logic, and the extended family will judge her for daring to step up. But Naomi also knows she cannot turn back. Doing nothing is no longer an option. She practices what she will say to the attorney, to her family, to anyone who doubts her. This is not greed. This is justice, she tells herself quietly. I am not asking for what isn't mine. I am claiming what was always meant for me. Her friends call again and she finally answers. Their voices are worried, cautious. They warn her, plead with her, urge her to avoid conflict. Naomi listens politely, but inside, she feels a small, growing fire. She doesn't need anyone's permission. She has proof, and she has Henry's words to guide her. For the first time in years, Naomi feels ready to confront her past. Not angrily, not for revenge, but firmly with purpose. She knows the road ahead will be lonely and difficult, but she also knows that standing silent is no longer an option. The quiet apartment around her feels different now. It doesn't feel small or empty. It feels like a place of preparation, a place where a strong woman is learning to be even stronger. Naomi sits back, breath steadying, heart still pounding, ready to take the next step. The fight for her future is just beginning, and this time, she will not back down. Naomi files a formal claim, her hands steady even as her heart races. She has spent weeks preparing, gathering every document, every piece of evidence, every note from her grandfather. The attorney files the papers, and for the first time, Naomi feels like her life is moving forward in a way she can control. The courtroom is quiet when the case begins. Naomi sits in the front row, looking at her mother and sister across the room. Evelyn is composed as always, her posture perfect, her face calm. Bianca sits beside her, trying to appear confident, but Naomi notices the tension in her shoulders. This is the moment she has been preparing for, the moment when years of hidden betrayal are about to be exposed. As the attorney presents the evidence, hidden clauses in the trust are revealed. The documents show clearly that money was meant for Naomi, protected by conditions that could not be bypassed without her knowledge. They show the deliberate delays, the forged signatures, and the misdirection of funds that Evelyn orchestrated. The $80 million trust that should have supported Naomi's life had been quietly diverted to Bianca and other accounts, including the expensive Manhattan apartment Naomi had only glimpsed in photos online. Then a recording is played. It is Henry's voice, calm and deliberate, recounting the creation of the trust and his intentions. This trust was created to ensure Naomi received what was rightfully hers. Any attempt to alter, delay, or redirect funds is a betrayal of my wishes, Henry's voice says clearly. Naomi feels a lump in her throat. Even though he is gone, his presence fills the room, supporting her, standing beside her in a way Evelyn never did. The courtroom is silent when the truth is exposed. Evelyn's manipulation is clear. Every action, every forged signature, every delayed filing points to her. Bianca had knowingly benefited from the misappropriated funds, purchasing her $4.5 million apartment, and enjoying privileges that were not hers to claim. Naomi feels a mix of anger, sadness, and relief. Finally, everything is out in the open. Bianca cannot hold herself together. She begins to cry, her composed mask falling away. She whispers apologies, but they seem hollow now, even to herself. Naomi watches her, feeling a strange mixture of pity and strength. This is the same sister she grew up with, but the innocence is gone. Evelyn remains composed, her face a mask of control, as though nothing could touch her. But the judgment finally arrives. The judge freezes her assets, declaring that Naomi is the rightful beneficiary of the trust. Every fund, every document, every legal safeguard created by Henry is now hers. Evelyn's calm cracks for the first time. The power she has wielded for decades evaporates in that moment. Naomi breathes deeply, her chest heavy but steady. She has won, but it is not about revenge. It is about justice, about reclaiming what was always hers. The courtroom buzzes with whispers and disbelief. Extended family members look shocked. Friends who had doubted her now nod quietly in approval. Naomi feels the weight of years of silence lift, replaced by a quiet strength she had almost forgotten she had. The $4.5 million apartment is frozen, and Bianca realizes the life she assumed was hers by default is gone. Evelyn's attempts to control and manipulate have been stopped. Naomi's life, which had always been undervalued, is finally validated by the law. As she leaves the courtroom, Naomi feels lighter. She does not smile broadly, does not celebrate loudly. Her victory is quiet, steady, and profound. She knows she has claimed more than money. She has claimed recognition, justice, and proof that she matters. Outside, the sun breaks through the clouds. Naomi walks with her head held high. This moment is hers, but she carries it with calm dignity. She does not gloat. She does not speak ill. She simply steps into her life, ready to decide what comes next, finally free from the shadows of betrayal and neglect. Bianca loses the apartment. The bright lights, the glass walls, the luxury she showed off, they are gone. She leaves quietly, avoiding Naomi's eyes. Evelyn faces criminal charges for her manipulation and forgery. The control she once had over the family is gone, and the truth finally comes out. Naomi walks away without shouting or celebrating. She doesn't need to prove anything or show off. The fight is over, and justice has been done. She feels calm, even lighter, as if a long weight has been lifted from her shoulders. Instead of selling the shack, Naomi decides to keep it. She looks at the old, broken building with new eyes. It has carried her through storms and sadness, and now she can make it hers. She renovates it slowly, fixing the roof, painting the walls, and planting a small garden. Each change feels like a step toward healing. The shack becomes a peaceful retreat, a place where she can feel safe and free. Naomi also starts something bigger. She creates a foundation to help women who have been betrayed or overlooked by their families. She wants to give support, guidance, and hope to those who feel invisible or unvalued. Turning her pain into something meaningful gives her purpose and strength. As she works on the shack and the foundation, Naomi understands something important. Her worth was never about who favored her or recognized her sacrifices. It was never about approval or praise. Her value comes from being trusted, being true to herself, and standing up when it matters most. Sitting on the porch one morning, watching the sunrise, Naomi feels peace. She smiles softly, not because she has won over anyone, but because she has chosen herself. The shack, once a place of neglect, is now a symbol of her resilience and strength. She has taken control of her life and built a future that is truly hers. Naomi sits on the restored porch at dawn. The air is cool, and the soft light of morning fills the yard. She reads Henry's letter one last time, feeling his words wrap around her like a warm hug. For the first time, she feels truly seen and understood. The shack wasn't something her mother discarded. It was something her grandfather protected. Naomi smiles gently, not because she has defeated anyone, but because she has finally chosen herself. In that quiet morning, she feels peace, strength, and the freedom to live her life on her own terms. Hey friends! Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you next time.